Arrival here, his demeanour gave no indication that within half an hour.
It feels a bit passé these days to expect a senior politician to resign or even just stand aside when their actions come under a cloud. In the past, ministers resigned for everything from the trivial...
This time it was the Paddington Bear affair.
...to the more serious.
He told the ministers he had decided at the weekend it was time for a younger man to take over.
But Prime Ministers have become increasingly reluctant to deliver what is known in politics as a scalp to the opposition, even in much more serious cases.
Dr Lawrence says she'll be with the Prime Minister tomorrow.
Paul Keating famously refused to have his Health Minister, Carmen Lawrence, stand aside when the West Australian Liberal government called a royal commission which investigated her role in the events leading to the suicide of a woman, Penny Easton, named in the state parliament when Lawrence was Premier.
One of the bloodiest weeks in recent political memory.
Not one, but two federal ministers gone with surprising swiftness.
After losing a slew of ministers in a travel expenses scandal in 1997, John Howard fiercely resisted losing any more.
I have upheld standards.
And Scott Morrison has stood by a number of his ministers, or promoted them, despite significant questions over their behaviour or management of their portfolios. Now he faces a problem which really does threaten the standing of the entire government. One of his ministers is alleged to have raped a 16-year-old girl in 1988. Yesterday, the Prime Minister was not giving any ground and seemed to have dropped his recent empathetic stance in the latest episode of what Peter Dutton last week described as he said, she said.
I had a discussion with the individual, as I said, who absolutely rejects these allegations. There are no matters that require my immediate attention.
In other words, despite the grave nature of the revelations, the Prime Minister is inclined to believe his minister and take no action.
Do you believe the allegation to be false?
Well, that is a matter for the police. See, I'm not the Commissioner of Police.
Though, is it?
Well, no, Prime Minister. Whether you believe him is not a matter for the police. It is a matter for you. And yesterday you seemed to accept your minister's word while admitting you had not even read the documents sent to you outlining the allegations.
And had you heard about these claims at all before last week?
No, not really of any substance. No.
Let's compare this with what the Prime Minister said in the wake of Brittany Higgins' appearance on the project 2 weeks ago.
I have listened to Brittany. Jenny and I spoke last night and she said to me, you have to think about this as a father first. What would you want to happen if it were our girls?
So what's the difference in the Prime Minister's view of Brittany Higgins 2 weeks ago and the 16-year-old girl allegedly brutally assaulted in 1988? Brittany has a name and a face. That 16-year-old girl died last year as a 50-year-old woman. For both legal reasons and to protect her family, her name has not been spoken. But a group of her friends from those days is now determined to speak in her name. One of them is Joe Dyer, now the director of Adelaide Writers' Week.
She was an incredibly talented, impressive individual. We met when she was quite young. She was selected for the state debating team much younger than people normally are. And that was because of the acute intelligence that she possessed, the extraordinary eloquence. She was so articulate.
The woman reconnected with her old friends from that time in 2019, told them of the alleged assault all those years ago, and that she was finally going to make a complaint to the police.
She was under no illusions about the difficulties that she would confront if she sought to make a formal complaint against anyone of a crime of such seriousness so far in the distant past. She had made a clear decision. She was able to articulate the reasons why she had taken that decision, which were to do with the fact that burying the trauma had not worked for her. Her life had been troubled as a result of that trauma, and she saw no other way of getting past it than to ventilate it.
And her friends believed her.
The account that she gave was shocking. The acts that she described were shocking. They were far outside the experience of any of us at that time as we were in our final years at school. The detail that she recounted, the lucidity with which she recounted it, and the clear impact that it had had on her, all of these things persuaded me immediately that she was telling the truth.
The New South Wales Police said today there is insufficient admissible evidence to proceed with an investigation into historical sexual offences and have determined that the matter is now closed. However, the South Australian State Coroner told 7:30 the cause and circumstances of the death are under investigation by South Australian Police on behalf of and at the direction of the coroner.
She described a pretty horrific rape that she said.
Former Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull is among those calling for a coronial inquiry and/or an independent inquiry. The call for an inquiry is backed by the woman's friends.
We're here to speak for her because she can't speak for herself. You know, it's wonderful to have young women with the strength and the eloquence of Brittany Higgins who's coming forward and saying, I have been wronged and I am seeking justice. They were the very words that my friend wanted herself to be able to say in a public forum. Sadly, she can't. There does need to be an independent inquiry to test, to interrogate, and we believe ultimately to establish the veracity of the claims that she made. We are happy to stand here and argue that case for her. What standard is okay for the Prime Minister to accept? Whether it's our friend or it's Brittany or if it's another young woman whose life may not have soared in the way that we all assumed our friends would soar, no one should accept this standard anymore. And I think that the anger that so many people feel indicates that they will not.
Hi, I'm Lee Sales. Thanks for watching this story. If you'd like to watch more of 7:30's stories, they are on the left of your screen. And tap on the button below to subscribe and get the latest from ABC News.